This week, the HPT is on a Caribbean adventure with card player cruises as we launch Season 9 from the MSC Poeza. Hundreds of players came aboard this luxury cruise liner for sun, sand, fruity drinks, and great poker action. And now, the penultimate of the week is here. The elite from this field of vacationing rounders are preparing to sit down at our new 9-handed TV final table. The final 9 is looking to cap off the vacation of a lifetime with the score of a lifetime.
This is the HPT.
Sit right down, put on your poker face, you with the big dogs now. Better bring your best game, talk trash all you want. To me it's all the same, you won't leave with much when you come in second place. And I'm the one with the stack showing 7 to the jack. Gon' cry to your mama cause I'm sending you back. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. Last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand.
Hello, friends, and welcome to the Season 9 premiere of HPT. I'm Fred Bevel, and as you can see, we've prettied up the place a little bit. We have a brand new set, a brand new 9-handed final table, and a brand new co-host, professional poker player, Maria Ho. Maria, welcome to the HPT family.
I am so excited to be here with you and to join the entire HPT family, and what a way to start Season 9. This week we've teamed up with the good people at Card Player Cruises and came aboard the luxury cruise ship, the MSC Poeza. When we set sail from Fort Lauderdale, Florida and hit the open seas, the cards started flying and the fruity drinks with umbrellas started going down Fred's throat.
I made it my personal goal to try every single concoction on the bar menu, and I'm happy to report, got through all 5 pages. Thank you. The good folks here at Card Player Cruises really know how to throw a poker party. All week long, we've enjoyed fun tournaments, cash games, and we made a lot of new friends.
Everyone aboard this luxury cruise line has had the vacation of a lifetime, and the elite players that made our new 9-handed final table are looking to cap off a great week by becoming the first champion of Season 9.
One of the highlighted storylines this week is the return of Jeremy Dresch. Jeremy is a 4-time final tableist and a 3-time HPT champion. And Maria, he's looking to match Greg Raymer's amazing feat from last season of winning 4 events. But to do that, he's going to have to navigate through this very talented final table.
We'll get to know these players a little better throughout this final table, but let's get the cards in the air and play some poker.
It's been a fun week here with Card Player Cruises. And Maria, here is what the players are playing for: $38,000 to our first champion here in Season 9.
Everybody's at least guaranteed to make $3,300 for making this final table.
And here is where everybody's starting out tonight. Richard Enriquez is the chip leader with a little over $700,000. Right behind him is Cruz Baca. The short stack right now, Steve Fox with just 16 big blinds. Maria, he's gonna have to make a move pretty quick.
The blinds are 6,000, 12,000 with a 1,000 ante.
Blinds are pretty low, the stacks are deep. This is Jeremy Dresch making his 5th final table. Wakes up with wired 6s. He's going to raise it up to 25,000. Action now moves over to Richard Enriquez. He's the chip leader. He's going to fold. Dale folds. Now we're on to Steve Fox.
Steve came in here with 16 big blinds, so he's probably looking to pick up a hand and make a move pretty soon. But Ace-9 of hearts right here after Jeremy opens under the gun isn't quite good enough for what he wants to do, which is go all in. And let's see, well, and I guess he is going to go all in with Ace-9 of hearts. Can't you hear me, Steve? Don't do that.
He's putting his tournament life on the line with his suited ace. It's folded around to Cruz Baca. And Cruz is going to re-raise it. He wakes up with wired cowboys.
And this is kind of the problem because there was so much action left behind Steve, and now Cruz wakes up with a huge hand behind him, and Steve's going to be in a lot of trouble here.
Jeremy folds his wired 6s, and yeah, you know, Steve went from coin flipping against pocket 6s to just having 1 live card against pocket kings.
Going to need a lot of help on this flop.
They're reconciling the chips, making sure everything's matched up in the pot before we get to the flop. And here is the first flop. It is 3 Jack 7 Rainbow.
It's looking a little grim for Steve here. He's going to need to go runner for a flush or hit his ace.
And it's a king of clubs on the turn.
And that's going to pretty much do it for Steve Fox. He's drawing dead now.
Put his tournament life on the line with ace 9, ran into kings, couldn't get lucky, and Steve will leave us in 9th place. I hope you had a good time at this final table, even though it wasn't a long time. Let's hear what he has to say with you.
Thanks a lot, guys. Now joined with Steve. And Steve, you came to the table as the short stack. You wake up with an ace-9 suited. You had to shove there, but you ran it right into kings.
I did. The hand played itself. Nothing I could do. I was the short stack. Had to go all in.
We hope to see you along the trail, and it was a lot of fun having you here at this HPT final table. So that is Steve. He's the first one eliminated here from the cruise ship.
Thank you, Steve. Enjoy that $3,000 you made for taking 9th. Blinds continue at 6 and 12,000. Action's going to start on Dale.
Queen 5 of hearts is a fold under the gun.
And Janet's going to fold behind. This is Molly Mossey from Minneapolis, Minnesota. She is going to announce a raise. Maria, I've been watching Molly play all week. She's a very tight, very conservative player. Selective and aggressive would be the way I describe Molly's game. Action's now folded around to Cruz.
So Cruz is going to go ahead and call here with ace 8 suited, and I think that's a fine call right there after Molly opens from middle position. It's a speculative hand, but if you think you can get paid off by hitting a flush, it's definitely fine to call with.
And Richard wakes up with ace queen here. Maria, do you like to just flat here with ace queen, or do you like to see a re-raise?
I think I would like to see him re-raise here with ace queen. He is in the small blind, out of position, so I think it'll be a good thing for him to do to kind of whittle down to maybe playing heads up after the flop.
We should put earbuds in these players' ears so they can hear your advice. He just flat calls.
Second. Yeah, we had our all in, of course. Okay.
Yeah, 2.
Let's see the flop.
It's not the worst thing he could have done. He could have folded, I guess.
And here is the flop in this 3-way hand. It's Jack deuce 6 with a couple of hearts.
Molly's going to flop bottom set here, which is great except for the fact that nobody else really flopped much here, so she's probably not going to see a lot of action, especially since Richard didn't 3-bet before the flop.
Richard is going to check. Action moves over to Molly. Those 2 hearts are going to keep her from trying to slow play this hand. She's going to lead out for 100,000, about half the pot.
I think that size is pretty good because there is a draw on the flop, and you know she doesn't want to take this 3 ways again to the turn.
Well, she got Cruz out of the way, but those 2 hearts might be a little tempting for Richard. He also still has 2 overcards to the board, and that's good enough for him to re-raise. Makes it 163 to go. Molly quickly shoves behind.
And this is kind of the problem with Richard not 3-betting before the flop, is now he's committing a lot of chips with nothing, whereas if he did 3-bet before the flop, Molly probably would have folded and that hand wouldn't have caused all of this action, but...
Well, we need to work on Molly's poker face. She's smiling, having a good time.
She feels fairly confident, especially now that the cards are turned up. Richard's going to need a runner, straight flush possibilities to hit. Otherwise, Molly's going to double up here.
A much needed double up for Molly. She came to this final table as one of the middle stacks. This would put her towards the top. Here comes the turn. It's a 4 of diamonds. And that pretty much is going to close the door on Richard's ace queen. And a harmless 3 of hearts comes on the river. And look at this. Just like that, Molly doubles up. Action at this final table starting off pretty hot. We have 1 elimination. More poker with Card Player Cruises when we come back.
Welcome back to the HPT on the high seas with Card Player Cruises. Let's get back inside to the action.
With the elimination of Steve Fox in 9th place, Cruz Baca is now emerging as our new chip leader, and we have Howard, Tahoe, Andrew on the bottom of the chip counts with about 6% of the chips in play.
And as we saw there, a $250,000 chip swing in the wrong direction for Richard. He's relinquished the chip lead, but still has a big stack in front of him. And action will start on him in this hand as blinds remain at 6 and 12,000 with a 1K ante.
Gonna start the action here with a fold, I'm hoping, with the 4-deuce offsuit.
Dale folds behind. Action moves over to Janet Moore. She's going to lay it down. Molly quickly folds. And it's ace 3 for Larry Kroll.
36.
And he's going to make it 36,000 to go in the cutoff with an unsuited weak ace.
That's a pretty standard raise for a hand like that in late position.
Well, Jeremy Dresch is in the big line, and I can tell you from experience, he is stubborn when it comes to folding that big line. He'll try to defend it as much as he can.
And he's going to defend here with the 9-7 of clubs, which definitely plays well post-flop, and I'm sure he doesn't mind being out of position.
Especially with a flop like this, 10-8 ace with 2 clubs. Jeremy's flopped the open-ended straight flush draw.
That is a huge flop for him, and he is going to go ahead and lead into Larry, the pre-flop raiser, with a bet of 38,000.
Larry did hit his ace, so he's got top pair with a weak kicker, but we can see statistically, Jeremy is the favorite in this hand.
Larry's going to opt to raise here, but I don't know if that's the best play. It's kind of putting in a lot of chips in the pot. Although he knows he probably has the best hand, there's 2 reasons. You kind of want to rope somebody along if he has second pair here. Why would you want him to fold the second best hand? And I have a feeling that Jeremy, because he flopped a straight flush draw, is probably going to re-raise this bet now.
Interesting, interesting. Do you think Larry raised enough here to get rid of a draw like an open-ender or a flush draw, or in Jeremy's case, an open-ended straight flush draw?
Definitely for Jeremy's hand, Larry did not raise enough to fold him out. And like I said, here Jeremy's going to put in a re-raise, and that puts Larry in a really tough situation with his top pair.
Makes ace 3 shrink up pretty quick when you're facing a 3-bet after the flop.
Good bet.
And Larry is going to fold, and Jeremy Dresch, showing why he is a 3-time HPT champion, scoops a pretty good sized pot.
How much? 16?
16.
Thank you, sir.
Blind still at 8 and 16 with a 2K. Janet will be the big blind. Under the gun will be Minnesota native Molly Mossey. She's going to lay it down. Over to Larry. He's going to fold. And here's Cruz. He's going to fold, and Tahoe lays it down. Over to Jeremy Dresch now. 8-Jack, not a big hand, but given Jeremy's in the cutoff and it's been folded to him.
33.
Absolutely, this is a very raisable hand for Jeremy here.
Makes it 33,000 to go. Over to Richard now on the button.
Richard has pocket 6s on the button, and I think that it's probably a good way to go if he just smooth calls here. I don't really like 3-betting here. I think that Jeremy could raise with a lot of hands because he's in late position, but you don't want to be playing a huge pot with pocket 6s. Wow, and he's going to make a really tight fold on the button with 6s.
7-deuce offsuit, and you could see Dale's frustration, folding one more time. Hasn't played a hand yet. Action now over to Janet Moore.
I guess Janet's finally get into the action here. She's going to go ahead and defend with 9-4 hearts, so I guess we got more than one defender here at this table.
I sense in your voice you don't like the defend with 9-4 of hearts there.
Is it that obvious?
And here comes the flop. It's 8-9 queen rainbow. So Janet has hit middle pair. Jeremy has hit bottom pair and has got a gut shot straight draw.
Jeremy's gonna put in a continuation bet here of 50,000, and Janet is gonna call.
And here comes the turn. It's a 5 of clubs. No help for either of these two players here. Both players check. Onto the river we go. It's a jack of diamonds, and that's going to give Jeremy the best hand. He's river 2 pair.
I can see Jeremy betting something like half pot here, and I feel like Janet's probably going to fold. That is not a good river card for her, and the board is awfully coordinated for her to be calling with 3rd pair.
And Jeremy is going to bet 65,000. And Janet's going to make the call and discover she's got the business end of a losing hand. Jeremy rivered her, I guess is one way to put it.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because she said she let him get there, and I think she played her hand fine except calling on the river. There's nothing you could really do on the turn when you're out of position with second pair, so she didn't do anything wrong. The cards were just not going her way.
Well, this is fun, huh? More poker when we come back. Welcome back to the HPT. I'm Fred Bevel. This is Maria Ho. We are with our friends at Card Player Cruises for our Season 9 launch aboard the MSC Poeza.
Let's see how the remaining players stack up. Jeremy Dresch, not a huge surprise that he has the chip lead now. He is the most experienced at this final table. And Tahoe Andrew is on the bottom of the chip counts, and he looked like he was asleep for half of the last hand, so I think that might be why.
You know, Tahoe, since you brought him up, we mentioned it earlier, played in every single World Series you could enter in. As we all know, the first couple of World Series were voted, but ever since '74, when you could start playing, Tahoe's been in the field.
That's pretty amazing. I'm sure he has some great stories about Stu Unger and some of the best, oldest players.
Larry's going to open this hand with Mom and Dad. FYI, Maria, my favorite hand, King Queen.
Mom and Dad, is that what we're calling
That's
it?
what I call
okay.
it. Yeah. And Cruz says, I'm going to re-raise it. He's got the monster, big slick. Makes it 72,000. Tahoe's going to fold over to Mr. Dresch. Action cards here.
This could be quite the decision for Dresch. Nines don't look that big anymore when you have a raise and a re-raise in front of you. But he might be tempted to get in the action here.
Jeremy folds.
Jeremy and you think on the same lines. That's probably pretty good for Jeremy. He is going to lay it down. Now we're over to Richard. The CB hand goes into the muck. And over to Dale, who continues to be card dead. Janet folds over to Molly.
Molly's going to fold as well, and it's back to Larry, and we'll see if he wants to call with Mom and Dad here.
Larry opened this hand for 38,000, and it's only 34,000 to call and see a flop. Cruz priced him in.
Little does Larry know he is dominated here by the ace-king of Cruz.
Boy, king high flop would get pretty bloody. And here comes the flop. Jack 6 King Rainbow.
Well, you asked for fireworks, Fred, and you got some, because on a king high flop, Larry is just going to lead into Cruz here.
It's like you can see the train coming down the tracks. Larry opens for 50,000, and Cruz, as expected, is going to raise it up, makes it 150,000.
150 total.
150,000 total.
100 more for Larry to continue on.
And I mean, if you're Larry here, you've got to be thinking, I have top pair. I should probably call here, but this is the trap that a lot of people fall into when they call with an inferior hand. And wow, Larry's going to get away from it. I am impressed, Larry. Are you sure that this isn't your day job? That was a good laydown.
Discipline fold for Larry, and Cruz is going to stack a nice sized pot.
It's like they don't want you to have any fun, Fred. You were expecting a bloodbath. You were expecting it to go to the river, and
I really did. I mean, you got top pair with a queen kicker. I would have gone broke there, but I'm a horrible poker player.
Tahoe folds.
Jeremy Dresch wakes up with wired jacks.
33.
He's going to make it 33,000 to go.
so just a little bit more than a min raise, which would have been 32,000. And I think that's kind of what all the cool kids are doing these days. So way to go, Jeremy.
Richard's going to fold. Now we're over to Dale. Is he finally going to get to play a hand?
Still no.
Unfortunately not. This is Janet Moore.
She looks a little interested. And she is a little interested. How interested, we're going to find out if she's going to put in a re-raise here or just call. And I think she just said she will be re-raising. And with aces, why wouldn't she?
Aces is a horrible hand.
It is. She is a loose cannon, I tell you.
Janet has put out the calling chips, but she announced a re-raise, and here comes that raise. Looks like she's making it 103,000 all day. 70,000 for Jeremy to call, and I think that's a pretty good size bet.
It's a pretty good size bet. It's a little bit bigger than I would have made it with aces, just because you still want to see some action. You want to get rid of the people behind you, but you don't want to scare Jeremy away. But given the fact that Jeremy does have pocket jacks, I think he will still play this hand out with her.
Well, it has been folded back to Jeremy. And Jeremy, very much the kind of player that's going to think things through.
And I think that's a thinking player's call right there because, you know, the jacks don't look that good when you have Janet there 3-betting you. So he's just going to play it safe and see what happens.
Let's see the flop.
And here comes the flop. It is 3, 6, 8, all hearts. Janet holding the ace of hearts.
And I think this is a really good flop for Janet, obviously, but almost better for Jeremy because he might be able to get away from this hand without having a heart in his hand. And Janet is playing her hand pretty strong here by going all in on the flop.
By strong, do you mean fast?
Strong and fast,
Okay.
which that's how most people like it. Well, she went all in for 208,000, which is roughly a little bit less than half the pot. So I can kind of see why that was her only play at that point. And Jeremy's going to get away from the jacks here because that is not a great flop for 2 blackjacks.
Welcome back to the HPT from the high seas with our friends at Card Player Cruises. I'm Fred Bevel. This is Maria Ho.
We're going to take a look at the chip counts, see where everybody stands. Cruz Baca is the chip leader with 808,000. Jeremy Dresch not too far behind him. And Tahoe Andrew just floating along on this cruise.
Tahoe and Dale have both been pretty quiet at this final table. Blinds are moving up. They're now 20 and 30,000 with a 3K. And it looks like Dale is finally woke up with a playable hand, ace-10 offsuit.
It might not be playable to him. I feel like he looks like he was going to fold there.
And Dale's just going to limp in here.
That's one way to do it. He is going to come to life here with just a limp, and ace-10 is not going to look too good if somebody raises behind him. But I guess he's hoping that won't happen.
Well, he did not get his wish. Howard is just re-raised all in here. Jeremy with king-9, he's going to lay it down. And Dale quickly folds.
Yes. So Howard's 3-bet shove there is the right thing to do, and he's going to pick up some extra chips in the process. And now we're going to hear some stories from the good old days of WSOP past.
My name is Howard Andrew, and I'm from Walnut Creek, California, and I'm retired right now. I played in it when they had, I think, 15 players, and I played in it when they had 31 players, and I got to the final table and didn't make the money. So at least I could say I got to the final table in the main event at the World Series of Poker and didn't make the money. And, you know, I didn't know these guys, Slim or Doyle, but I really learned a lot from them. I remember one time playing with Doyle just in a little side game, and I knew he was a great player, but he didn't win any money that evening. But the key is he didn't lose any money. That was the key.
Pretty cool for Tahoe. He's seen all the history of the World Series.
That's another story. Yeah, but it's different.
Back to the action here. We're going to start with Janet.
Janet is under the gun.
She is going to lay it down over to, I'll just start calling her Minnesota Molly. She's going to fold.
Larry fold.
Cruz looks down at ace-10, and I think he's going to come in for a raise here.
60,000.
And you are right. He is going to make it 60,000 to go. Tahoe lays down 10-3 over to Mr. Dresch with 6 deuce. And now back to Richard. Is it me, or is Richard's day job possibly the most interesting man in the world? He looks like the Dos Equis guy.
He does, actually. That's a good observation. Dale's going to move all in with ace-queen, as he should, and Cruz is quickly going to call, and you can't really fault him for making that call there with the ace-10 of diamonds after he opened.
And here is the flop. Look at this, a 10 right in the window, launching Cruz ahead. So now he's drawing to just a queen. The turn is an 8 of hearts. A queen and only a queen will save Dale's tournament life here.
And Dale is not going to hit his queen on the river, and he will be eliminated in 8th place. It just was not Dale's day because he was card dead, and now he got unlucky when he got it in with the best.
Dale, you came into this event as the second shortest stack at the table. You got it in good, but unfortunately, now you're doing an interview with me.
Yeah. Well, I did get it in good, and I just didn't get, lucky. He did get lucky, and I couldn't pull it out. But It was a great tournament, and I'm glad to participate. Well, you guys are very good. You're very professional, and I like that. That's good. Yeah, had a good time.
Going out in 8th place, that is Dale. We've got more exciting action coming up. Who's going to be our next HPT champion? Do not go anywhere. It's a beautiful night at sea. It's the HPT and card player cruises. Let's go inside and get back to the action.
Here's some updated chip counts. There's been a little bit of movement with the elimination of Dale in 8th place. Cruz Baca stays on the top of the leaderboard, and Jeremy Dresch still following close behind him. Now Richard Enriquez becomes our short stack.
Only 8 big blinds left in
Hey, if
Richard's
you
stack.
win,
He
what are
started
you
this
doing
final
later?
table as the chip leader. He's been going the wrong direction ever since. Shanna choosing now is a good time to get to know some of the players a little bit better.
Was she flirting?
I believe she was.
From a woman, that was flirting.
She's going to lay down 10 deuce. Molly wakes up with wired 3s.
She's gonna fold. That's interesting. She came in with the raise earlier with pocket deuces, and now she's opting to fold 3s.
Well, she must have some psychic sense, because here is Larry waking up with wired 10s. And he's going to open for 60,000.
Maybe he telegraphed his
kinda high
motion
pitch
because
then.
you notice what they're gonna do before they do it with their chip movement.
Molly very observant. Cruz is going to flat call with ace queen. Tahoe's going to fold. Now we're over to Mr. Jeremy Dresch. He's got wired 9s. Got a action hand brewing here, Maria.
Yeah, Jeremy's been getting 9s in situations where he wishes he didn't have 9s. Because once again, you know, there's a raise and a call in front of him, and he's kind of in a tough spot, and it looks like he might be taking the guessing game out of this for himself and go ahead and 3-bet it with 9s.
I like that play, though.
I do, because, you know, he doesn't want to worry about where he's at. He wants to know now, and he might find out from the 10s of Larry in a quick second here where he's at.
Action now on Richard. We'll see what he has here. I'm curious. Deuce 4. Oh, gosh, I thought it was something good. He didn't just snap fold right away. Richard, a fan of the dramatics, I suppose. And Larry's going to fold his wired 10s.
Cruz is definitely thinking about it with ace queen longer than Larry thought about folding his 10s. So
Well, I think Larry's fold there is just pure respect for Jeremy Dresch. These guys know his HPT resume. They know what he's capable of.
I mean, that's what it would seem like, because that's still a pretty big laydown there. A lot of respect from Larry, but probably not so much from Cruz, as he's going to call here with ace queen.
Well, let's see a flop. And the flop is 5-8-6 with a couple of clubs, so Jeremy still has an overpair to the board. Cruz has missed.
That's an excellent flop for Jeremy's hand. He has an overpair to the board, a gut shot, and he is probably going to bet out here and hope that Cruz just folds. I think Jeremy definitely wants to take this pot down right here on the flop.
Well, there's 441,000 in the pot. Jeremy's still stacking and staging his chips here. And he's going to make it 206,000 to go.
It would be really interesting to see Cruz try to make a move for this pot here. You don't expect him to, though. And it's really hard when you're playing out of position with an aggressive and good player like Jeremy. You're really not sure what to do in this spot.
So as a general rule, Maria, when you're not sure what to do, pretty much fold is probably the best thing, right?
I think there's a saying that says it's better to make a bad fold than a bad call.
Sure.
And so I think I do agree with that somewhat. You don't want to ever not know where you're at. You want to be putting your opponent to the test all the time. You don't want to be the one sitting there wondering if you have the best hand, because that's just going to put you in some tough spots every street. Might be sensing some weakness from Jeremy, but I think he's just not going to be able to pull the trigger and take the pot away from him. So Jeremy's going to take this pot down with 9s.
The two big stacks just locked horns there, and Jeremy came out ahead. Everyone on the HPT has gotten to know Jeremy pretty well over the years. We've seen him a lot at events. He's a good guy from Fridley, Minnesota. And here we are with Mr. Kroll. Wakes up with wired 5s, and he's going to fold.
I feel like I've been seeing people make some pretty tight laydowns with pairs at this table, and you know, I think you can't really afford to do that, especially if you're already a tight player to begin with. You have to look for the spots to open, and you know, when it's folded to you and you have a hand like 5s, you should definitely come in there with a raise.
Cruz makes the raise with queen 8 of clubs and is clearing the field behind him. Action now is on Richard. He's got ace 9 suited. Steve Fox went all in earlier with ace 9 of hearts, and
that didn't work out so well for
No.
him, but he was up against kings. This is a bit of a different situation here because Cruz did open from late position. It looks like he opened from the cutoff, and he has been fairly active at this table in comparison to some of the other players. So I don't think that it's the worst thing here if Richard is going to decide to shove all in with ace 9 of hearts.
And that's exactly what he does, Maria. He is all in. That's the hand he was looking for, I guess.
For 129.
And now the decision on Cruz. It's 74,000 for Cruz to try to eliminate Richard.
He's a little bit committed. I mean, he's getting a little more than 3-1 on his call here, and I don't think he's liking the fact that he opened with queen 8 of clubs and is now in this spot, but
Well, he said exactly what you just said. He caught me, but I can't fold. And he makes the call.
and as you can see by the percentages, he definitely had the odds to call there. He's not a huge dog against Richard's hand, actually. He's live, that's for sure.
Against queen 8, so he's...
Well, let's go to the flop for Richard's tournament life. Richard going to the flop ahead, but you got to think hitting an ace wouldn't be so bad for him. And here is the flop. It is 7, King 5, Rainbow.
And that doesn't help either player, but Richard doesn't need to improve his hand as he is still in the lead with ace high.
Cruz hoping to find a queen or an 8 to eliminate Richard.
Well, he finds something not as good, but he does have a backdoor flush draw now, so Richard's going to be sweating it a little bit until that ace comes on the river, and he is going to double up.
Richard gets the much needed double up. Just a flesh wound to Cruz Baca's stack.
A little sigh of relief and a smile from him, and he has a little bit of breathing room.
Welcome back to the HPT here on the high seas. We're having a great time with our Season 9 kickoff. Who's going to be our new HPT champion? Let's get back to the action.
Thank you, Mr. Larson. Here is our updated chip count.
We have Jeremy Dresch taking over the top spot with 956,000, which is not surprising. He has been very aggressive at this final table. And the bottom of the chip counts, we find Larry Kroll and Tahoe Andrew not too far behind him.
956.
Blinds continue on at 10 and 20,000 with a 3K ante.
Over 950.
And action in this hand will start with Larry Kroll, one of the short stacks. He's going to fold. Cruz folds quickly behind. Tahoe lays it down.
Okay, it's folded
Over to our
Jeremy.
chip leader, Jeremy.
Looks down at queen 6 suited, and when it's folded to him, like I said, you need to take advantage of these raising opportunities, and he will indeed come in with a raise.
Makes it 42,000 to go. Over to Richard, who's fresh off a double up.
He looks down at Jack 3 offsuit, which is probably not going to be good enough, not even by his standards.
He does lay it down. Molly makes the call with 9-6 offsuit from the big blind.
That's an interesting defend by Molly. She's been fairly tight, and 9-6 offsuit, not a great hand, especially against a good aggressive player in position like Jeremy.
Flop is deuce, 3 King Rainbow. Molly quickly checks. See if Jeremy fires a continuation bet, or a C bet as the kids call it.
Glasses off.
Needs a nap.
It's fairly standard when you are the pre-flop aggressor to follow it up with a continuation bet, because most often you are going to expect your opponent who is out of position against you to check to you.
And Jeremy does the expected continuation bet, makes it 48,000 to call.
Molly says raise.
And Molly putting a play on Jeremy. She is going to raise it up.
And she's going to take it down right there, because Jeremy does not expect Molly to be check raising here with nothing. And she is surprising me with that level of play. That is a really good play. If she had just called to defend 9-6 off without any plan after the flop to try to take away the pot from Jeremy, I would say she should have just let it go. But that was a great play by her.
Brains, beauty, and poker skill. That is Miss Mossey. Blinds continuing on at 10 and 20,000 with a 3K ante.
I thought you were talking about me there, Fred.
Oh, that's right.
But I guess that applies for Molly as well.
Where's she at?
Action on Tahoe. He's going to fold. Over to Mr. Dresch. He lays it down. Over to Richard.
Richard likes to take his time. He's going to think about it with the Jack 10 of diamonds. I'm not sure about his stack size right now, but it's pretty much an raise or fold situation for him because he is one of the shorter stacks.
You know, he doesn't always drink beer, but when he does, it's Dos Equis. Not good enough. He's going to lay it down over to Miss Moore. She's going to fold. And it's ace-4 offsuit from Molly.
Molly says raise.
She's going to raise it up from the button.
I was expecting to see her open that from the button, especially after she pulled off that check raise.
You're a little
last hand.
surprised at that play, aren't you?
I am. I'm going to be talking about that one for the rest of this episode.
And now Cruz with 8-6 offsuit. He's in the big blind. And you see a tight player like Molly raising from the button, but Cruz also stubborn with his big blind. He's going to defend.
Get a drink of coffee, right? So we can get
Once again, it's all about having a plan when you defend with hands like that, because you can't expect to be flopping the nuts every time. You can't be expecting the flop to come 9-7-5 here for Cruz. So you really want to think about how you want to approach this flop.
And the flop is 5-3-4 with 2 diamonds.
Cruz has flopped an open-ended straight draw here, but a 7 would give him the nut straight. Molly has flopped middle pair here with her ace-4, and I think she's going to follow that up with a c-bet.
And you are correct, my friend. She makes it 100,000 to go after Cruz checks.
Cruz should probably be check raising this flop because he can't expect Molly to have a lot of this range in terms of the low suited cards. So he could probably take it away from her right now if he wanted to, but he opts to call instead with his straight draw.
Hopefully. Okay, I gotta go.
On to the turn we go. After Cruz makes the call, it's a 9 of clubs. And Cruz once again checks over to Molly.
I think Molly sees that there are a lot of draws on that flop, so I think she's hoping that Cruz has one of those draws and that a second barrel is going to get him to fold. And it just might, considering he decided to just call the flop with his draw.
And she does fire the second bullet, makes it 170,000 to go. And a quick call from Cruz just will not get away from 8-6.
No, and now Molly must not be liking that because I don't think Molly thinks her 4 is even good anymore. So she might have to really shut down on the river.
Queen of spades.
The river is a queen of spades. I would expect Cruz to make a play here. He's been check calling every street.
If he does make a play, that would be the only way for him to win this pot at this point. So
Cruz checks.
Cruz checks, and now Molly goes all in. That's a little surprising to me. Why wouldn't Molly just check behind and go to showdown?
Molly has huge showdown value with her hand right here, and I'm very surprised that she's going to go all in because at this point, she's turning her hand into a bluff, and if Cruz were to call her on this river, there's no way she could win.
Well, Molly is going to stack up a big pot here after getting Cruz to fold on the river.
I definitely appreciate her sense of aggression, but I think the more calculated, better play there would have been to just check behind.
We'll continue to grind to our first champion of Season 9 right after this. Welcome back to the HPT with our friends at Card Player Cruises somewhere in the Caribbean Ocean. We are having a great time. We started with 9 players at our brand new final table. Now we are down to just 7.
Let's take a look at who's steering the ship. And look at that, your girl, Minneapolis Molly, atop the leaderboard with a series of aggressive hands that she played. Jeremy Dresch follows her in second, and at the bottom of the leaderboard is Larry Kroll.
Larry with just 7 big blinds left. Tahoe with only 8 big blinds left. Both these guys are going to have to pick up some hands. Jeremy Dresch is going to start this hand off with wired aces to be, in my opinion, the best player at the table. Getting aces is just not fair.
It isn't. He's definitely played very well, very aggressive, and it's really tough to play against a good player when he's getting good hands as well.
Blinds are now 12 and 24,000 with a 3K ante. So Jeremy's made it 50,000 to go, just barely a min raise.
Call 50.
Looks like Janet's going to go ahead and call here with King-Queen suited. She seems to like to play against Jeremy, but I don't know how that's worked out for her thus far.
Molly is going to fold. Larry folds. Cruz gets rid of his hand, and now we're over to Tahoe. Tahoe and Linda Johnson know each other a little bit.
Tahoe's going to call here with 8-6 suited from the big blind.
Why not, right?
Sure, why not?
Flop is king 3-8 with 2 clubs. Obviously, Jeremy's hand still the best, but Janet's picked up a flush draw, and Howard has hit middle pair.
And as you can see from the percentages, with Janet's top pair and flush draw here, she is actually a bit of a favorite to win this hand. But Jeremy, of course, is going to continuation bet with his aces. Nothing really to be afraid of there. He does have the ace of clubs in his hand, so that's also helpful.
Jeremy is gonna fire 101,000 over to Janet with top pair and second nut flush draw.
And this is pretty expected of Janet here to put in a raise. She does have top pair and a flush draw, and there is a third player behind her in this pot, so she is going to raise it up and put Jeremy to the test here.
And there you go. Boy, you are good at predicting action, Ms. Ho. Jeremy raises to put Janet all in, and she quickly makes the call, and you can't really blame Janet for this call, can you, Maria? Top pair, second nut draw?
No, but this is the problem also with speculative hands, is you're going to get it in on this flop all the time, but you are still behind.
Not anymore.
No, but Jeremy does have the ace of clubs in his hand, so if another club comes off on the river, he will win this pot.
Janet whispering red into the dealer's ear, hoping not to see a club come on this river.
Please. One time.
I don't think you can ask for a one time when you're already there, but
The river is a 2 of hearts, and Janet's going to get the double up she needs.
that is a huge pot, and Jeremy's chips are going to swing Janet's way, and I don't think he loves the fact that he just lost with aces.
No, especially with that kind of a flop and that kind of a holding. But, you know, he only made it 50,000 to go pre-flop. It's pretty enticing for a hand like King Queen suited to see a flop there.
It is, but Janet was pretty far behind. With a suited hand, you're only a 3% favorite over a non-suited hand, and it turns out that she actually had 2 unders.
And the action continues, Maria. Cruz opens for 65,000. Howard goes all in behind with ace queen. Jeremy folds. Richard on the decision now. And you know, with only 48,000 for Cruz to call, we're going to have a showdown here with Howard's tournament life at risk.
113.
Question is it going to be heads up or is it going to be a multi-way pot with Richard's hand of wired 8? He's going to go all in.
And that is definitely also the right thing to do with his stack size. And Cruz is obviously going to call both players. And Howard has a bit of a chance here with ace-queen suited, but Richard's in a lot of trouble.
Now it's 280,000 for Cruz to call with Richard's all in. That's a little bit different than calling just the 48,000 he needed to call for Howard.
It's slightly different, but Cruz's hand is too strong to fold against 2 all-ins with pretty short stacks. Wow. This is amazing. He is going to give Richard extra life here because Richard has Howard covered, so there's no way he'll be eliminated in this hand, but he was dominated by Cruz's 9s.
Well, he gets Cruz to lay it down. Richard is ahead, but coin flipping against Tahoe. Here comes the flop. It is 8-4-3.
Wow. And Cruz goes from visibly frustrated that he folds in 9s to pretty happy.
Richard's flop top set, and running hearts is the only thing that's going to save Howard now.
And the turn is the 2 of clubs, which actually gives Tahoe a 5 to make a wheel to keep him alive in this tournament.
Oh my God.
And the river is going to pair the board with the 4 and not going to do it for Tahoe.
Howard, Tahoe, Andrew played in every single World Series a person could have bought into. Is going to leave us in 7th place. Let's hear what he has to say. The sideline reporter, James Larson.
No reason to talk about the last hand. You went out, but you played great all day, and it looked like you were having fun out there.
Oh yeah, no, it's a nice tournament. You know, I'll be back. It's a beautiful boat, as I said before. Nice people, that's what counts. You know, everybody's fun and enjoyable to be around. You know, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, hey, I want to shake your hand. It was great having you here at this HPT final table, and I'm sure we'll probably see you down the road.
Absolutely, absolutely. I shall return. I think that's what MacArthur said a long time ago.
All right, our good friend Tahoe exiting stage left. We'll have more action. Now we're going to send it to Maria and Fred.
Thank you, Tahoe. I hope we see you again on the HPT very, very soon. What a gentleman he is. Well, we started with 9. We'll pick it up next time with 6, but I thought it'd be fun since you're part of the family now. You're a professional poker player with a very impressive resume. I'd like to hear a professional's point of view on the play so far.
I can sense that coming into the early stages of this final table, the group is playing a little cautious, maybe a little overly cautious. I would really like to see all of the players play a little less tight, step up the aggression going into the later stages of the final table when they get shorthanded especially.
Well, we're going to come back kind of shorthanded with 6 players, but we'll have to wait till next time. Now, do you think you have what it takes to sit under the bright lights and television cameras of the HPT? Well, log on to our website at hptpoker.com to find an upcoming event near you. For Maria Ho and James Larson, I'm Fred Bevel. We'll see you next time on the HPT.